Hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic. I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. We've reached that magical moment that we do in every week, and that is Wednesday. It is the first day of practice for the week, and in this case, Dan, getting ready for the 6-4 Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, and all that comes with that will be at Soldier Field on Sunday at noon. How you doing, Danny?
I'm good. Yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers question mark week here for the Chicago Bears, right? The third time this year that they've been dealing with uncertainty with the opposing teams starting quarterback. I think we'll get into this in a little bit in the episode, but I think most of the world here in Chicago would like to see Aaron Rodgers suited up. But yeah, the practice week has begun here. The injury reports are out, and now it's surfing that wave until we get to kick off on noon on Sunday.
Yeah, the injury reports are indeed out, and I don't think that I have been as excited or stimulated or turned on as much as a reporter in that form in hearing two words again as a reporter, and I think that trickles down to our listeners and to fans of the Score and wherever you take in our content. But the two words are window opening. The practice window.
Does it please you?
It pleases me greatly. What? The windows have opened. The beautiful air is coming into your home right now. We know what happened last week. It was a little bit of a surprise that they opened the practice window from injured reserve for Jaylon Johnson, who, by the way, was practicing so far this week, and we'll get more into the injury report. So you know that the Jaylon Johnson window is open, which means it's not inconceivable that he wouldn't play this weekend, but we could talk about that and project that. But Dan, another window has opened. The Kyler Gordon 21-day practice window is open. He has 21 days to show the world he is good to go, or as the rule states, you go back on IR. Dan, what do you make of this, especially starting with Kyler Gordon? And then maybe update us on your opinions on Jaylon Johnson.
Yeah, I think it's encouraging that these windows are open because it does allow you to dream of a scenario where the Bears defense is pretty close to whole. You know, I think you'd put T.J. Edwards, who never went on IR, on the list of guys that you're eager to see back on the field and contributing to this defense. Until the window is cleared, right? Until you get through the window and back onto the active roster, you're kind of in a wait and see mode. And that's where the timelines of these two guys really come into play. I think that the Bears have to navigate a tricky schedule here in the very short term, where you go to this game on Sunday against the Steelers at Soldier Field and then turn around really quickly for the Black Friday game in Philadelphia. And so when we kind of talked to Ben Johnson Wednesday morning about kind of his view on assessing the readiness of his two top corners in Jaylon Johnson and Kyler Gordon, he said, look, there's sports science involved. There's, a medical staff involved, and there's a lot of thought that goes into this to make sure the players are set up for success. And so that short week behind this game Sunday, Grote, leads me to believe that you wouldn't want to mess around with either of these two guys. If you do want to bring them back, you maybe target the Black Friday game, understanding that they're going to have a longer recovery time before the Packers game the following week. The other good news about this that I think you would agree on is the guys that have stepped up in their places, Nashawn Wright and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, are very capable of holding this down. And so there is no major rush. And there's also not a scenario where there is a scenario where you could consider mixing those guys in and not giving them the full workload right away. Just understanding that these other guys have established themselves as starters right now. And so it'll be very interesting to see how the Bears navigate this.
Yeah, rationally speaking, you're right. Yeah, that would be the wise thing to either, if at the very most, you ease these guys in. There are two guys here who obviously stop and start seasons big time. And Kyler Gordon, you worry about in general. Like, he just, on the overall, Kyler Gordon has not been a very healthy NFL player. So if you can afford to err on the side of caution, now's the time. And I stress that word because, Dan, the Bears, they do lead the league in turnovers, forcing turnovers, the defense, 22. And by the way, that's the Steelers' trick too. They force a bunch of turnovers as well. I think they're second right now. But that's not necessarily where I was going. Where I'm going is, if you look at all the major defensive categories for the Bears, and I'll just go through, a few of them. The Bears right now still are 26th in points allowed in the NFL at 26.4. The Bears total yards per game, they are 27th is what they're giving up. That's not good. 364.6. Passing yards allowed on average, the Bears are 23rd in the league in that capacity, 231.3. That's a key area, obviously, if we're thinking about those two defenders. And then rushing yards, the Bears are still allowing about 134 rushing yards per game. They're at 25th. So I just go through that to bring up the idea that how patient can the Bears afford to be at this point, and if they are serious about what their record says, and that's 7-3 and on a playoff trajectory.
It's it's kind of that seesaw that you have to ride, because it's how patient you want to be versus how aggressive do you want to be, where you're then adding risk into the component where you get a guy back for one game and then he's gone again, and so that's kind of where you have to find this right balance. You have to lean on, again, the medical staff, the sports science staff, and you have to lean on the players to be honest and really give you their honest feedback of where their recovery's at and how they're feeling every day. And so yeah, I don't think there's any question that this is a big part of the Bears storyline here in the near future, particularly as the quality of competition stiffens, the meaning of the games gets greater, and now all of a sudden, you have an opportunity here to hopefully get whole defensively to the point where Dennis Allen can then have all his chess pieces available to him, and then try to do some of the things that he always envisioned doing but hasn't had a chance to because of all the, as you mentioned, the start and stop for these guys.
Yeah. Quickly, as we're looking at it on Wednesday, the DNPs that did not practices were Jaquan Brisker, shoulder. Kevin Byard gets a day off, so he's not hurt as far as the report is concerned. He was just resting, Veterans Day off.
Yep.
Who doesn't deserve it more than Kevin Byard? Tremaine Edmonds dealing with groin, so he sat out the practice. As we know, nothing different with TJ Edwards, and I don't know if anything was spoken about him today, Dan, but I'll let you fill in that blank if it was in a second here. Grady Jarrett getting some rest today, so he did not practice. Noah Sewell not practicing. By the way, he had 10 tackles last week. Noah Sewell has an elbow injury. And then limited really quickly, Jaylon Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, DeAndre Swift, and Darnell Wright dealing with a pec injury. I don't take those lightly, by the way. When you hear pec injury, man, that is, if it's the bad side of a pec injury, it's the season usually.
Yeah, and thankfully he was limited, so that gives you a little bit more encouragement that they've got it. But no, at this time of year, you don't really take any of these things lightly. You just kind of monitor them and see where they go. Again, as you mentioned, Jaylon and Kyler both limited as they work their way back. And Tyreek Stevenson, I'll just say this because I did talk to him in the locker room after the game in Minnesota. He was trying to figure out where all of it started, because I said, what exactly got you there? And it's listed on the injury report as, well, he's listed as hip and calf, but he was pointing from the hip to the ankle on Sunday after the game and saying, yeah, man, I took a shot, and it's just, he tried to come back in and he wasn't able to put the proper weight on it. So that's going to be interesting. He was moving around the locker room pretty well today. As you know, from that setting, he was able to knock down a few jumpers, which is always a good sign on the locker room basketball hoop. So
yeah, the hoops have been lively in the locker room this year. Did I tell this story on Take the North about my being forced to take a shot in the Bears locker room? Did I tell you about this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Javon Dexter. Yeah. Okay.
I don't remember if you told it in this forum.
I don't know that I did. Just real quick. Yeah. So the last thing I want to do is take a basket in their locker room. But I was hanging out, like I just happened to be hanging out where the guys were shooting around, kind of just waiting to see who I could speak to by their locker. And Javon Dexter took a shot and missed it. And then I was like, just making a joke. I make jokes. I said, man, you're big. You got to be boxing out down low. You can't be hanging out on the perimeter. And then he says, here, you take a shot. And I go, I can't, because the rest of the media will just kill me. I said, it's not professional. And he looks at me and he goes, you are the media. You can do it. I go, okay, sir.
And you hit it, right? You made it, didn't you?
I did hit it with the left hand. So that was pretty important. But back to the really important stuff.
No. This is the important stuff.
Okay.
You keep that arm in the air and you walk out of the locker room and you don't turn around and look at your Javon. It's just you wanted me to take a shot. I hit that anyway.
Well, he was impressed. I got to say, like he kind of shook his head, like he did not expect me to make that basket. And I don't know. Thank God. You know what? And this is a good time to bring up our old friend, Mark Potash. Mark Potash, he was the kind of the media police, the scruples police. Like he probably would have crushed me for that if he had witnessed that. And he did crush me last year when I accepted a chicken wing from Jaylon Johnson when he was offering to the media. And I wasn't the only one, but Potsy got on me and others last year for accepting food from a player.
Yeah, so we'll pass this along to him and see what his ruling is and see what your punishment will be. But way to knock down the shot. At a minimum, you've got that on your corner.
That's a lot of pressure, quite frankly, because if I miss it, then I'm just going to get mocked. It really was a no-win situation for me. Either I'm mocked by a Bears player or I'm mocked and admonished by the media behind me. But back to Tyreek, wasn't it a shoulder last week that he was dealing with? So
well, he's taking some shots here in these games. Yeah. So it's and like Brisker, like as a back, and now it's a shoulder. And so like this is November in the NFL, you know, where your body starts taking it in every possible angle. And so hopefully those guys will get themselves right.
All right, I can't wait to hear what you have to say on what has become the great debate in the city of Chicago, and that is Aaron Rodgers. And as of the recording of this podcast, as we mentioned at the beginning, we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is playing. My gut is that he's probably playing, but the question is, and that we have been bantering on the score, and now we'll have the opportunity to do it here on Take the North, is do you want Aaron Rodgers to play in this game? Do you want to see the backup play? Would you rather see that happen in this game? Or would you rather see the guy who destroyed Chicago one game at a time with his play on the football field? Dan, I've weighed in on this to some degree, so I'm really seriously, genuinely interested in hearing what you have to say first, and then I will refresh our audience on my thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, play or not play.
Well, Take the North founding father, David Haugh, presented this question to me on the morning show on Wednesday morning on 670 The Score. And his lens on this whole topic is that the Bears are trying to find their way to 10 victories so that they can find their way into the playoffs. And in order to find your way to 10 victories and punch your ticket in the playoffs, you'd like the easiest road possible, which means Mason Rudolph starting for the Steelers on Sunday at Soldier Field. I pushed back on this vehemently, Mark Grote, because there's two things here for me. Number one, huge fan of football theater. There is no better football theater than Aaron Rodgers, who loves the theater of playing against the Bears in Chicago, forcing his way into the lineup for Sunday and trying to give it one last shot inside the building where he's given Bears fans nightmares and headaches for decades, multiple decades. The other part of this is I would argue that for a team in the stage the Bears are in, you've had your easy games, right? And everyone's talking about, okay, the Bears' path to 7-3. They've gotten here with one of the weakest strength of victory data points in the league at this point. And so this is time for this team to start taking tests, right? And the quality of opponent matters, and the way that they go about this matters. And so I think you are on the same page as I am in regards to, you want Aaron Rodgers out there. You want to take this test. You want to pass this test. You want to flex when you pass this test, and it'll just be really fascinating to see them do it.
That's a really rational way of looking at it too, and I have talked about it and used a different phrase, but signature win. The Bears do not have that signature win this year, and I know we're going to talk 2018, but I think it's fair to say that I brought this up on the score, that in 2018 you had, I would say, the Rams game, right?
Sure.
At Soldier Field on that cold night. I know there was a nice win over Minnesota too while we're at it in primetime that year, but I think that it was the game against the Rams that was probably
that's the one that caught the world's attention, right? Like that was the game where it was like, this is prime time and we're flexing and we dominated this football game and we're for real, and so I think to your point, like it's like a for real game, right? Like you want to prove you're for real,
right? And you don't want any caveats, like I understand, like the national media is going to, of course, take that into account. Be like, well, they won this game without Aaron Rodgers, so I want to see everything in play. A Steelers team that is 6-4, a Steelers team that this year did beat Indianapolis this year. They've had
New England.
And New England, they've had some nice wins. They did lose to Cincinnati as well, but so they've had their weird NFL moments, but this is a team to be reckoned with for sure. So I love all of that, but I'll even take it deeper on my inner meatball.
Let's go.
And that is, Dan, he is 24-5 against the Bears regular season in his career.
I lost count, so I'm glad you updated that.
I had to refresh with my little friend AI today on this, but yeah, 24-5 in the regular season, 1-0 in the postseason, 11-3 at Soldier Field. So look, there's never a way that you will have ever gotten the better of Aaron Rodgers, but just take one good swing at him. Just one good,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
if the Bears and if Aaron Rodgers plays and they beat him and they embarrass him, and let's say they get a pick six, it's still Aaron Rodgers still owns the Bears. Okay, I'll say it, but just a little something on the way out, because it's just ridiculous if you don't get to this man at this point in
Yeah.
his career, then you just know he's got you. So just give a good left hook to the guy, just to show that we're not as bad as he might think we are.
That's my other pushback on the sentiment that you're just trying to find the easiest path to 10 wins. It's like you have to be eager to go after people that have tormented you, right? And a lot of these players and coaches weren't here, but they understand the history of this and they know what this would mean to the city. Listen, since we bring up 2018 on here all the time, the Bears clinched the division that year with a victory over Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And you know how sweet that was and how satisfying that was to take that guy down. Remember the Khalil Mack back sack,
Oh
right?
my
In that
God.
football game. And it's just that this team playing this brand of football at this stage of this season against this quarterback at this stage of his career. Yes, bring it on, and let's go have that fist fight inside Soldier Field on Sunday and see who emerges victorious. And I think everybody kind of wants that. Certainly, probably CBS that's going to broadcast the game. They want that, and so I think Aaron wants it more than anybody too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the biggest deal of this whole thing.
I loved and check out the chat there from Studzinski, by the way. Eliminated the Packers from the playoffs that day as well. Studzinski says that was a great day. The other thing, honestly, that I do like about Aaron Rodgers, and this could be hard to take maybe for some Bears fans, I like his engagement in the rivalry. I like it when he talks. Look, he's crushed the Bears, all right? So maybe he's just pandering a little bit, but he seems to genuinely like the city of Chicago. He talked about growing up being a Bulls fan and a Cubs fan because of WGN. I know he digs the city, right?
I believe we have some of that here from today in Pittsburgh of Aaron Rodgers talking about his desire to play in this football game. Studs, bring it.
There's incentive for every opponent, but I have enjoyed many a Sunday and Monday and many Thursdays in that city. It's a great sports town, phenomenal sports fans, and great place to play.
Aaron, do you sort of thrive off of being the villain there a little bit? Sort of enjoy that aspect?
I'd rather not be. I mean, I'm not in Green Bay anymore. I feel like we can let bygones be bygones. Maybe I can, I guess. It's a great rivalry. I mean, in the history of all sports, you talk about the Lakers and the Celtics and the Red Sox and the Yankees. You got to talk about the Packers and the Bears. And there's been some great memories there. When I first got to Green Bay, the Bears had the all-time series lead. When I left, the Packers did. And since Jaylon has taken over, it's even gotten better. But I hope those fans can put that behind them. I'm sure they can't. Don't expect them to, but I really enjoy the city. They got great sportsmen. I grew up watching WGN on my five-channel TV back in the day, so I was a Cubs fan and a Bulls fan. How can you not be a Bulls fan unless you don't like Michael Jordan? I did. I loved him. So it was a lot of fun memories over the years playing there.
Oh man. See, I do like that stuff. But then as I listen to it, the tone with which he speaks, it's all on one level. It's like, oh yeah, man, I love the Chicago and Michael Jordan, but I will tear your throat out. I respect what the Bears did in the 80s, but I own your asses. Like,
it's been a great rivalry. Of course, I'm the one that threw the touchdown pass to Randall Cobb, if you remember that one in 2013. So I was able to do that. This was pre-you, but we actually did a podcast episode with Aaron Rodgers from his darkness retreat a few years back. He came and visited the podcast from the darkness cave. So he is a friend. He is a friend of the podcast, and yeah, he does like to just subtly kind of bring us up to speed on how well he's done here and how much I respect Chicago. And yeah, I own them, and I've owned them forever. And as Mark Grote just said today, no matter what happens Sunday, I'll still own them.
Yeah, I love them too. I think I like how he throws around the. I think I want to say that when I got here, the Bears had the all-time rivalry, but
and we won like 19 out of 20, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but I respect the hell out of them. Love their city. Love Bozo the Clown. Love MJ. But I will crush your souls and eat you one at a time.
I'll give you one more footnote, and I know we're going to do some more Rodgers talk, obviously, on our pregame preview episode, but We used to do a Rodgers impression in the media room for a long time, mostly Brad Biggs and I, and he used to always reference Mercedes Lewis. No matter what happened in a game, Mercedes Lewis would go like he wouldn't have a catch in the game, and then it'd be in the post game. Rodgers would be like, love the things that Cobby did today. You got the running game going, we were really good, but Big Dog was great. And, and he would always bring the Big Dog reference. So when Big Dog signed to play for the Bears, you should see the text thread of how excited Biggsy was that Big Dog was coming into our terrain after being such a big part of our bit for a long time in the Rodgers impersonation.
Did you guys ever pose that to Mr. Lewis at any time?
We talked to him I think it was at Lucas Oil Stadium after a preseason game where we were kind of introducing ourselves and just being like, hey, we're going to need to get some Rodgers bits at some point. And I don't think we ever got to the depth that we wanted, but yeah, that was hanging out there.
That's hilarious, man. That's really good. As Dan said, yeah, we'll talk more on our next episode of the podcast about Aaron Rodgers, dig into what has been going on with him this year, the numbers, the player that he is now relative to when last Bears fans saw him playing against them and owning them and all of that stuff. So promise, there'll be much more time to talk about Aaron Rodgers. But where are we going here now? Oh, maybe we talk about the quarterback on the Chicago Bears. How about that?
Yeah.
How about we talk about Caleb Williams? This was Caleb Williams' day to speak to the media. Caleb and the Bears coming off the recent win over the Vikings, where Caleb Williams was 16 of 32, 193 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. What did you make of the discussions with the quarterback today that stood out to you, Dan?
First of all, Caleb Williams, noted Aaron Rodgers fan.
Yes.
Like from the time before he was a Chicago Bear, as a quarterback he grew up admiring and trying to emulate. And so he certainly wants that interaction to occur on Sunday at Soldier Field. When we start talking about some of the things that we're focused on with Caleb's development, I think that the deep ball accuracy is something that popped up again Sunday in Minnesota. Ben Johnson on Monday highlighted the 2 third downs early in the game where the first one he misses a one-on-one shot to Rome Odunze up the right sideline. Later in the first quarter, misses a corner route to DJ Moore that was wide open, and it's a 35-yard gain if you keep your mechanics and you put the ball on target. And so this has been recurring, and I don't think we can minimize this going forward, because look, like Caleb's got to make developmental leaps in big areas as we go forward, and we can't just rely on, he's really good at escaping sacks, and when the game's on the line he goes and wins games. To be a top tier quarterback in this league, you got to become the complete quarterback. Part of that is being able to capitalize on some of these deep ball opportunities that are there for you. And it's been, I think you'd probably agree. Like there's just moments where you're like, man, that the number 1 overall pick should be able to hit that throw with that receiver that open.
Yeah, but that open and more often, because obviously it's not the first time we have seen him being erratic on the deep ball. I'll never forget, like this year in training camp, I think it was maybe the 3rd full, like real training camp practice. And I was on one of the shows at The Score, and they were asking me to give the evaluation of Caleb. And I think up to that point, I was like, he looks fine, but I got to tell you, like the deep ball's off, like just watching play after play after play. And look, those are hard to connect on. I take that into consideration. And I remember reporting that. And of course you get the 50-50, he doesn't hit the deep ball. And then other people saying you're being hypercritical of him, that whole group of people as well. But this has been persisting, Dan. It is something that needs to continue to be zeroed in on.
Well, and speaking of 50-50, in a question I asked Ben Johnson in the Zoom call on Monday, I asked him about, the intent was to ask about the deep ball accuracy. And I said, is there a point where you want him to give some of the playmakers more 50-50 opportunities? And Ben pushed back on that quickly and said, if you know my history as a play caller, I don't like 50-50 opportunities. And so I didn't really intend it to be about 50-50 balls, right? Like it was more so about giving the weapons that are in this offense opportunities to be weapons. And you want to see these guys have opportunities to make contested catches rather than running and having a ball land 4 feet beyond them and being like, well, they didn't have any prayer to make a play on that play. And so that was really the intent of my question, but it did lead into more 50-50 ball questions for Caleb Williams out here on Wednesday at Haugh. And he agrees with Ben Johnson that he doesn't like to take 50-50 chances. They want to take higher percentage chances. my thing is it's not about the percentage chances. And that's why I sort of, in retrospect, regret using the 50-50 terminology, because it's just
Yeah.
about how do you put the football in an area where your guys have a chance to make a play on it more frequently. And that, I think, is probably a part of the growing process here for Caleb Williams that he's got to figure out.
I got to tell you, I actually like, even though that wasn't the direction you had intended to go, and it happens to all of us. But that was interesting to hear from the head coach,
Yeah.
and the quarterback especially, because look, that's part of the NFL. They go up and get it, guys. 50-50 balls. We hear it obsessively from coaches. They use it as a badge of honor. Like quarterbacks will be like, yeah, I just wanted to give my guy a chance out there.
Like,
But it makes sense, man. The 50-50, that's not good enough, right?
right. And I get it. Like Ben prides himself on being a guy who gets guys wide open, and it's all over the
Right,
tape of him getting
right,
guys wide
yeah.
open. So I get it. It's like, that's a 90-10, just rip it. But I think back to the touchdown that T. Higgins scored in Cincinnati, where Nashawn Wright is playing almost perfect
Oh my
defense.
God, right.
And Flacco puts the ball up there, and you're like, that's what great offenses do. They've got those guys that can go take your heart out, even when you defend them well. And
Yeah,
so
Deshaun Wright is 6'5", 6'4", 6'5". Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. He's a tall
I'm telling you
quarterback.
that specific example, like, my eyes in real time thought Nashawn Wright intercepted the pass, and then I see T.
Yeah.
Higgins celebrating in the back of the end zone, and I'm
Right.
like, holy crap, he took that away. And then you're craning your neck to watch the replay, and you're like, that's it. That's a big time playmaker in a high level offense doing that kind of thing. And so I think that's got to become part of what Caleb does. I'm going to give you another little kind of note here, just to keep an eye on this week, because there's a small video from Steelers practice circulating on social media of practice squad receiver John Reese Plumlee serving as the Caleb Williams, playing the role of Caleb Williams in Steelers practice. And what they were practicing with him back there is Caleb's spin away from sacks.
Wow.
And you can tell they're teaching that this week on, like, if he's going to spin, make sure which way he's going to spin and defend that. And so you start to see, one, how much attention Caleb has grabbed with his ability to get out of sacks and do those types of things. And two, now what defenses are going to try to take away from him, understanding that that's become a weapon for him. It's like, okay, one of his best things now is getting out of trouble in the back of a pocket and spinning and getting outside. How do we spend our week preparing for that and getting ready? And so a very small video, but kind of fun to consider what kind of effort they're putting in to try to take that away.
Honestly, that is really smart. And I'm sure that other teams take, his elusiveness, his elusivity into account. But some of the stuff like that Caleb is doing right now is next level. Like, we all
it's unique, right? It's like unique to him,
It is, like, and the way he feels pressure is excellent, because it's like been a nightmare with so many Bears quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Mitch Trubisky, to name a couple, where you're watching the game, whether from the press box or on TV, and it's like a horror show. You see the defender coming, it's like, get out of there, go! And this guy is doing spin moves, pirouetting, and not like losing his balance either, or his frame of reference. Like, it's all so beautiful. So that's actually low-key smart by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and I promise you there will be an extension of this that we talk about in our game preview episode, because there's a little more to it too that I think is going to come into the game planning that the Bears do, and some things that Ben Johnson hinted at today that as they get ready to play a very, very important football game. I mean, it's an important football game.
It is. It's one where if the Bears win, they'll be 8-3, and we're just heading into a land. We're already in a land that I was not expecting. So it's pretty amazing to think about. And Dan, the last time the Bears were this good, we did allude to our favorite season in Bears history in 2018, a little bit earlier on the podcast. But let's do it again, because this is the first time the Bears are 7-3 since that magical regular season ride of 2018. How do you compare the two teams in terms of legitimacy?
So it's funny. My wife this morning asked me, she said, what's the Bears record now? And I said, they're 7-3. She said, didn't they start 0-2? I said, yeah. And this is only the second time in my entire existence covering the beat where they've won 7 of 8 games. That other time is 2018, where you got on that run, and I think they won 9 of 10 right down the stretch to go into the playoffs with the division crown. And so there's similarities there. There's similarities in the way that the new coach has brought so much juice to the building, and guys are responding to that. You feel all that. Where for me, the parallels kind of end, and you mentioned the Rams game earlier, the two things that team had going for that was the strength of that defense. That defense was miles beyond this one.
It was an elite defense, Dan. For 1 year, I think elite's not hyperbole for that defense, is it?
And I get it that this defense taking the football away, but that defense was menacing. That was an elite defense. It was probably the best in the league that year. And for those who don't remember, they scored 6 defensive touchdowns that season, right? So they were putting the team on their back in many weeks. The Rams game was a perfect example. I think the following week they hosted Minnesota in a primetime game at Soldier Field. Eddie Jackson scored again in that game. He had 3 defensive touchdowns that year. They were playing a brand of football behind Khalil Mack and the secondary and everybody else that just instilled so much confidence. The difference that also created is that there were, I don't have it off the top of my head, but of their 12 victories, I think there was at least 8 where they never trailed, right? Like they were just taking leads and never giving them back. I'd have to go double check that, but I think you can recall off the top of your head a number of those. I remember a game in Buffalo where they ran away with it and it was entirely defensively driven. Mitch Trubisky didn't play well. They won by like 30 points and it was just like, oh, this is what we do. And so this team, it's about late game magic. It's about coming back after you've given up a lead. That team didn't give up leads. That was so good defensively that I think it was a much more advanced football team than this one is. At the same time, they share the same record, and this team's got everything ahead of itself. They got the pen in their hand, and they can write their story over these next 7 weeks. 2025
Bears are much more 2001 Bears where you just really couldn't figure it out, right? Like how you saw what they were doing, getting for all you youngsters out there, in back-to-back weeks, Bears safety Mike Brown had walk-off pick sixes where the clock was overtime.
Both of them were on overtime.
Cleveland and San Fran, game's over. Literally, Mike Brown running into the tunnel, into the locker room.
Same tunnel, same end zone. Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah,
it was. I mean, it really was. I always say, like, it was one of my favorite Bears regular seasons. It just was. It didn't stick. It didn't go anywhere. That's why we have these conversations. But I agree with you. Yeah, 2018 was an elite defense. I remember after the Minnesota win, I was doing my first year doing sidelines with the Bears. And after that win, I don't know who they were, but they were wearing Vikings gear and overhearing the Vikings guys say, they might have been scouts, whatever, coaches, assistants going, wow, that Bears defense is something. Like they were like they couldn't help themselves.
50 sacks too that season. That's the other thing. That 50. This team is not going to get anywhere near 50 sacks. I don't know what they have right now, but they're not getting 50. I promise you.
No, they're not. That's another problem, and we'll have more time on another podcast to discuss that. But one other thing I got to bring up before we get out of here,
yes, sir,
is how about the name of this podcast, huh? There's a reason why you and I believe that David Haugh admitted that you were the one that came up with the title of this podcast, the Take the North podcast. Here we are, man. The Bears have taken the North temporarily.
Nope.
Might give it back.
As I told you on Monday, there ain't no took until you are across the finish line of the regular season and there's nobody in front of you, right? Like it ain't no took right now. They could walk out of Soldier Field on Sunday and go to bed that night in 3rd place in the division, and we'll say, well, they didn't really take it for very long, did they? So it ain't took until the season ends. But they've positioned themselves to take it, and now they've got to continue to take it. I think the analogy I used with you on Monday on the score was like you've got to get to the checkout counter, you've got to check out, you've got to get to the parking lot, you've got to load it in the trunk, and the car's got to be in reverse before we proclaim the North taken. And so a lot more work ahead for this team.
Yeah, and then one more really last thing. Just going through the Dan Wiederer checkpoints here. C word? No. Yes. Today? No.
We haven't got to 9 wins.
9 was the. Okay, sorry.
That's the checkpoint. That's where we
unlock
never mind. It. And then we're going to do a whole C-word podcast, which I know our audience is very thrilled. Stutz will have to put together a good guest list for that.
Oh yeah, that would be a monumental moment for sure.
The C-word bonanza podcast.
Oh my God, who we get? We got to get. We get Haugh back on. We get Potsy up in here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it'll be there. Yeah.
All right. Big week. See, everything's happier everywhere when the Bears are winning. That's just the world that we live in. Chicago and its suburbs are a much happier place right now, and really all over the country. Because, Dan, we hear from all the transplants around the country on the Score, on the Odyssey app.
I did want to bring this up in extension with that because our numbers at Take the North are exploding, and we are both very proud and happy about that. We're glad to serve our audience the way we did, but it totally debunks the theory that's persisted forever. That all the media wants is negativity. business is great when there's positivity. People love a good story. And when
No
the Bears
doubt.
are winning, people come and they say, what do you got for me? What do you got for me today? What do you got for me yesterday? And they keep coming. So like, let's just put the rest that like we are like pigs in poop when the team is failing and losing. It's crazy because you see what it's like when they're winning and you're like, why wouldn't we want this more regularly?
Yeah, hey, look, I admit it. Like when they were losing last year, people did want the story because it was historic and
No doubt.
monumental, and you had Caleb in the building, and you had some incompetent like. So I do get all of that, like that, and I understood. And we had a huge responsibility last year to bring that to you. But now you're right. Like we've talked about it a million times. It changes everything. The players are easier to deal with. We're easier for them to deal with. That's probably the way I should have said it, because we are more pain in the ass to them than they'll ever be to us in any way, shape, or form. It's just the way it works. It's just part of the checks and balances of the world that we live in. But yeah, it really is a much better direction for everybody when the Bears are winning. And thank you to everybody.
I was going to say,
first time listener, viewer, however you take in the podcast, we appreciate it. Dan and I are in the locker room a lot out at Haugh. We are very honest too about what we see. We're not afraid in that regard to tell you like it is. That's what we do. That's what we pride ourselves on here.
I'm really grateful to see the audience grow the way it has, and for people to trust us the way they do to tell the story here. And we take great pride in doing it for this organization and trying to figure out where they're headed and where they've come from and where they might go next. And so this is fun. And so to watch that audience grow the way it has, it's extremely gratifying.
Yeah, we'll see where the podcast goes.
It pleases me.
Yeah, please. What? You have gratification. You have pleasure. We hope everybody that listening has that too in their lives.
It's good to see.
Oh, we got to do our greatest hits show one of these days. For Dan Wiederer of The Athletic, for Adam Stadzinski, who is our executive producer of the Take the North podcast, who does a wonderful job with that role here on the podcast, I am Mark Grote saying thank you so much for real for listening and watching to the Take the North podcast. Almost forgot the name of the podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.